The government is purposely deceiving you with this information. They wouldn't do that, would they? They wouldn't purposely deceive you. Well, maybe they would. You probably think they would. You can tell me down below. Do you think the government would purposely deceive you or not? Well, what do I mean by that? So sometimes there's things, and I think most economists actually, I accuse several economists of this, of being what I would consider factually correct, but intellectually dishonest. So factually, it's correct, but they're deceiving you with the information. It's intellectually dishonest. So we see this all the time. They say that, quantitative easing wasn't inflationary because it just went to the reserves of the bank. Well, maybe that wasn't directly inflationary, but indirectly it caused inflation. So these are types of things, and that's exactly what happened today with this news story that just came out. And you need to understand this because they're using this story, which is factually true but dishonest, to create more policies for you and your money. So let's dig in. So we can see here on Reuters, the U.S. labor market powers ahead with a strong job gains despite recession fear. So wait, I thought the economy was doing really bad. The stock markets are going down. The Fed's stuck. Inflation's raging. The economy's crashing, right? Everyone's feeling broke. I mean, the Fed told us that their job is to destroy demand. I feel more broke. I'm not spending as much. So how could that be? Everyone's afraid that we're going into recession. As a matter of fact, the Fed GDP now actually showed us quantitatively that we're in a recession. A recession is defined as 2 quarters with economic decline. And we didn't just have decline, we had negative growth. It went negative. And so technically we're in a recession. So this says the U.S. labor market powers ahead, strong job gains. Now you have to understand, one, why does that matter? Well, they look at job growth to determine what the next policy will be. And they're showing that there's strong job growth, but they're deceiving you. So let's take a look at this. All right. Non-farm payrolls increased by 372,000 in June. All right. We added 372,000 jobs in June. Private sector employment is back above pre-pandemic levels. Wow, we've completely recovered. Don't you feel so much better today than you did before the pandemic? Everything's better, right? We've recovered, it says. Unemployment rate holds steady at 3.6%. Historically, we're low. There's almost nobody looking for a job. Everybody that wants a job has one. That's great. And the average hourly earnings rise by 0.3%. Wow, everything looks amazing, doesn't it? Well, why does this matter? Well, we're going to dig into these numbers. I'm going to show you how they're factually true, intellectually dishonest. But I want to show you, why does this matter? Well, we can see here that the jobs blowout, meaning this incredible jobs report that just came out from the government, the way they calculated it for us, this accounting magic, if you will, the way that they've calculated this amazing new number they've produced for us gives them the case to continue to raise the Fed's fund rate. So now they can continue raising rates to continue crushing the market. But if they're trying to crush the market to bring the wealth effect down, the negative wealth effect, so you don't spend as much, there's not as much demand, which will bring inflation down, why would they want to have a good job? Aren't they trying to crush the demand? If more people have jobs, more people are working, don't they have more money to spend? Kind of interesting, isn't it? So let's dig in and see exactly what's going on with these numbers. Here's a thread from Macro Alf. You can find him on Twitter. I recently just had a long interview with him that's coming out on my main channel. If you're not following my main channel, you should. Just search Mark Moss on YouTube. And this weekend, I'll have a video coming out with Macro Alf. We're going to dig into this in depth. But anyway, here's a thread from Macro Alf on Twitter. If you're not following him, you should, at Macro Alf. And if you're not following me on Twitter, you should also do that as well. You can find me at @1MarkMoss. It's @1MarkMoss. Okay, so the numbers. We added 372,000 jobs. Okay, so we did, right? Versus the 265,000 that were projected or expected. So that means that we actually increased the amount of jobs by 100,000 jobs over what was expected, which sounds great, right? Sounds really, really good. But we also got minus 74,000 revision for U.S. jobs added in the prior 2 months, which means that there's a net of just barely 33,000 jobs. Okay. So what's more interesting about this is, and this is where it really starts to get intellectually dishonest here, is that the labor force actually shrank. So we got more jobs, we added jobs, but we got less people working. How does that work? Well, we can see the labor force shrank by 350,000 people, which means the number of U.S. people actively working or looking for a job became smaller. So here's where the magic comes in from the government. So they tell you how many people are unemployed, but that's how many people are unemployed that are actually looking for a job. It doesn't show you how many people in the United States aren't working. That's the labor force participation rate. Oh, that's a completely different number. Let's just forget about all the people that don't work. We're only going to measure the people that want to work and can't find a job. Do you think that sounds intellectually honest? And do you think they can actually calculate that right? Let's keep going. So it says that this also reduced important metrics like the participation rate and the employment to population ratio, which is exactly what I'm talking about. So when you hear like, wow, 3.5% unemployment, that must mean like 90% of the people are working. That sounds great, but that's not the case. A lot of people don't want to work. So this doesn't have anything to do with the employment versus population or what that participation rate is. And you've heard me talking about many times what's called this quote unquote great resignation. Since the pandemic, in the late last year, we set records. We continue to set records every month on the amount of people that were quitting the workforce. Now, a lot of them quit the workforce because the government was paying them more to stay at home than to work. A lot of people quit the workforce because they wanted to trade options on Robinhood and trade cryptocurrencies. But whatever reason, we were having record amounts of job quits each month, setting back and forth. And it says the Great Resignation, these are people that aren't coming back. So what we can see here on this chart is that this is the U.S. employment to population ratio. And so you can see that had been averaging, here's 2003 through 2008, about a 62% of the population was working. Then you can see after 2008, that number dropped down below 60% in the high 50s, 57, 58. Then it popped back up to right before the pandemic right here. And you can see that we are sitting right around 60, 61%-ish. You can see where it dropped out. So that's the amount of percentage-wise of people that are working. All right, now a scarcer supply of labor. This is where it gets interesting. A scarcer supply of labor is a big issue for the Fed. Why is that an issue for the Fed? Well, because this might keep wages too high. Think about that for a second. That's a problem for the Fed. If wages stay high, that's a problem for the Fed. Is that a problem for you? Would you like your wages to go up or down? Would you like your wages to stay up? Well, I'm guessing the answer is yes. I'm guessing you'd like to be paid more, and if you're being paid more, you'd like to be continued to pay more. Why is that a problem for the Fed? Does that mean the Fed's interests are opposite of what you want? Think about that for a second. That's a big issue for the Fed, for your wages to stay up. Why? Because if wages stay up, it continues to lead to more inflation. If I have to pay my workers more money, I have to charge more money for my goods and services. Then inflation stays up. It says, indeed, wage growth remained robust at 0.3 month over month. So that's a big issue for the Fed. We can continue on. It says here, if you look under the hood, you notice that the U.S. average work week hours decreased to 34.5%. So this is where more of this magic comes in. So first of all, the unemployment looks good, but it's really not. Why? Well, because they showed the growth, the jobs added, but they didn't show the loss of jobs that we had. And so when you net that out, we didn't really gain that many. It's not really that good. Second of all, just because we have low unemployment, that's a manufactured number, the participation rate has continued to come down. Less people are participating in working today than they were before, which means we have to now take care of more people through welfare and other government programs. And on top of all that, the people that are still working, which is less of them, they're working less hours than they were before. As a matter of fact, now they're working to only 34 hours, which means mostly less than full-time work. That's part-time. So that's not good. So even of the people that are working, they're not even working full time. We can go on. The Fed metrics, the Fed metrics they followed all worsened. So the Fed's looking at these metrics to make their decisions, and they all got worse. So one, a scarcer supply of labor. Well, that's not good. It means less people working, less people to choose from. If I'm an employer, I want to find the best person for this job, but now instead of having 10 people to choose from, I have 2 or 3. So that's not good for me, or employers. There's also wage growth is holding strong. Now that's good for you and I, but it's not good for the Fed, which is crazy to think that their interests are opposite of yours. And then we saw job openings to unemployed people are still too high, meaning not enough people are working, not enough participation. So, the jobs report, it's a blowout. It's amazing. Everybody's celebrating. As a matter of fact, I have this right here. Oh, I had it ready. Let's see. If you're not following me on Twitter, you should. @1MarkMoss. You see it right there. Go ahead and just follow that. But I wanted to show you this right here. So the press secretary, this is the Biden administration press secretary, says, quote, "We are stronger economically than we have been in history." Wow. Do you believe that? Are we stronger economically than we've been in history? Well, if you manufacture the numbers to show whatever you want, I suppose, but does that make it true? Do you believe it? Does the debt show that? Do your wages show that? Do the cost of your ability to buy food and gas for yourself and your family, does that show it? This is what the term of is gaslighting. Gaslighting is a psychological warfare, trying to tell people that what they're seeing is not true. And that's exactly what's happening here. Let me know what you think. Do you think that we are the strongest economically we've been in all of history, like the Biden administration secretary tells us? You can give me a yes or no. Of course, as always, give me a thumbs up on this video if you like it. If you don't, give me a thumbs down. And make sure you subscribe. I'm trying to grow this new channel. And check out my main channel, Mark Moss, where I have even deeper commentary on these issues. That's what I got. All right, to your success. I'm out.